Hi, welcome to Reaper Live. I'm Ron Hawkins, art director here at Reaper Miniatures.
I'm Ed Pugh, president here at Reaper Miniatures.
Thanks for tuning in to Reaper Live, the show where we blend painting, gaming, and geek culture, all for your viewing pleasure. We're joined today with Michael Collins, our producer, technical director Justin Elliott.
Hey guys.
Thanks for jumping on board there. And this is Reaper Live. So real quick, before we can get going too much further, we realize that this is Reaper Live, and we're not really live. It's a recorded.
Yeah,
it's recorded, so we get it. We understand. But we'll be doing live shows.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely there. We get our schedules worked out. We'll be doing a lot of live shows.
Yeah, so we're
True live shows.
Yeah, so
these are live because we're both alive.
We are live. It was recorded for a live studio audience, like Laverne and Shirley.
There we go.
You see, there's our studio audience. So anyway, Reaper Live. So let's talk about what is Reaper Live.
What is
Yeah. So how did we come up with the concept of Reaper Live?
Through the years, one of the most common conversations that we'll have is ReaperCon and everything that comes out of ReaperCon, everything that happens at ReaperCon, the engagement of the fans, talking with them, the bringing the artists in, the whole thing. And ReaperCon's great, but it happens once a year. So having it happen weekly is part of what led to this. So each week we're talking about getting painters, the artists in here to be able to talk with and engage, getting industry notables in here to find out what's going on out there in the industry.
So it's 52 times better than ReaperCon.
That would be it.
Because ReaperCon only happens once, and this happens once a week.
That's assuming we do an episode during ReaperCon.
That's true. So it's 51 times
51
better.
times better.
51 times better. So what we'll do is, like you said, we'll bring on special guests. We'll talk. We're going to paint primarily. That's the bulk of the show.
That's the whole point of being here. If you're here, you're painting.
Yeah. And so now, you know what? That sounds like a pretty good segue to me. Let's paint some stuff. Let's just jump right into it. Okay. Right. So 1, 2, 3. No, let's just start painting. Okay.
We're not going to do the whole.
No. Wonder Twin Powers activate. No,
okay.
We're just going to paint, and we're going to talk about some things while we're painting. So we're not just going to sit here in silence. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about some stuff.
Okay.
So, and also, we'll be talking about just some random stuff, but we want you to send your questions to us. So send all your questions to reaperlive@reapermini.com, and we'll try to answer as many of the questions as we can. You can ask us anything you want to talk about. Hopefully it's miniatures related or game related, but
and legal.
I guess it's legal. I guess it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But we'll shoot for that.
That works for me.
So, we'll talk about the things we want to talk about. We'll talk about the things you guys want to talk about. We'll talk about all kinds of stuff.
And before we get started with the painting, one of the things that also happens at ReaperCon, or that I personally enjoy, is finding out how people get into the hobby. That there is half the fun. The stories you hear, what they talk about, what they tell you, how they relive the ultimate dungeon story of their first night, anything. So with that, I think we're going to start this show with that as well. So Ron, how did you get into the hobby?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that.
Yeah.
So
back to my
So
line.
I'll tell you what. So what I'm going to do while I come up with my story, I'm going to get my guy ready to paint.
Okay.
So
you want me to tell mine first? Is that it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's get our. Yeah. Okay. What are you painting there? What is that?
Oh,
Why?
this is a cav.
That doesn't look like a.
No, this is the starting
guy
of
with
a
a
cav.
sword. Okay.
It's an enforcer from Cav. Talon Games does Cav. I've even got my Cav shirt on. This is my pimp out shout out. He's running a Kickstarter.
What does Cav stand for?
Combat Assault Vehicle. It was a game that Reaper did early in the 90s, I guess somewhere in that area. We had fun with it, but
late in the 90s.
Late 90s. There we go. I mean, he's the clock. So anyway, it was a great game. We all had a lot of fun with it, and it's just not our cup of tea. So what we've allowed,
meaning
the support side of it, the fan engagement. All we were really doing here was just upsetting a lot of people because we didn't continue to come out with books and all of the associated stuff to make the game live.
We couldn't give it what it deserved. Yeah.
So in effect, we won't get into all the stuff, but Talon Games ends up purchasing it about 2 years ago, and he's engaged with it full time now. He's bringing out new minis. He's getting the books. He's bringing back to everything really what Cav needs and really what the fans want. So that's how we do it, Cav.
So you're painting a Cav miniature.
No, I'm painting a Cav.
This is obviously a metal miniature because it's just so sharp and crisp.
No, not at all. No.
Sugar?
Sugar, yeah. No, it is. It's a bones type of miniature.
Yeah.
It's plastic.
It's a bones.
It's very rigid. That's the important part here. That's the part that Ron was trying to get to.
Just the fact that it's...
But the detail is very, as you can see on the camera, I'll get it in the center and let it twirl, if you haven't been seeing. Anyway, no, the detail is extremely sharp. The technology involved with making miniatures in the world is just growing phenomenally. So this is just incredible. So this is what I'm painting.
Has John Walker reimbursed you for your opinions on the cab models?
Not yet, but
okay.
I'll get a set out of the cab Kickstarter.
You sound like such a salesman. I thought maybe you would... It was a paid endorsement or something like that.
No, it is in product, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to be painting. I'm going to put my spectacles on here. I'm going to be painting the Ogre Leader by Bobby Jackson. This is from our Bones 3 Kickstarter. And Bobby sculpted this and a few other ogres for Bones 3. So I'll be working on this guy. Working on it terribly, by the way. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this guy. What are you doing? Well, paint.
Working on the Enforcer.
You're not
doing
right
now. I'm
hey,
critiquing you.
So, shameless plug. So,
I can't agree with that. I would never do that.
Shameless plug. So, on Monday, October the 15th, we're going to be releasing, and this is a segue, releasing our new Bones paints. It's the new Dungeon Dwellers paints.
Back there
they are. They're back there. I'm going to get up for a second. Our technical director is throwing a fit right now because I'm
so unprepared. These
I know.
amateurs.
So these are our new Bones paints. These come out next Monday, or October the 15th. And so this is the Bones Dungeon Dwellers Monster Color Set. You get Troll Hide, Orc Skin, Goblin Skin, Kobold Scale, Knoll Pelt, and Ogre Skin. That's my point, as I'm going to paint my Ogre in Ogre Skin color.
Why don't you give us a look at those on the camera,
okay? So there's that guy, okay? And then the other set here is the Bones Dungeon Dwellers the Dungeon Colors paint set with Vampiric Mist, Succubus Kiss, Eldritch Purple, Cursed Gold, Skeleton Key, and Dungeon Gray. Like I said, these all come out next Monday, the 15th. We'll put him there. But I needed the Ogre Skin out of this set to paint my Ogre with. So we'll put that right there. Okay. So I'll paint it very badly. So we'll take this guy off. And in the meantime, I'll put up this piece, which is another piece I was working on, which happens to be an ogre as well. Oh, so
I'm seeing a theme.
They're big, and so I can see them better with my blinds. So, okay, so we're talking about how we get into the hobby, right?
So, Ron, do you want to start? Do you want me to start? I'll give you.
You know what? Why don't you go first while I get my stuff prepped over here?
And stuff?
Yeah,
because you weren't here earlier for practice.
I'm looking for my number 2 flat.
This one.
No, that's a number 4 flat. Okay. Whatever. I'll make do.
Anyway, I got into this hobby out of high school, going into college. I had painted models, plastic models. I had played Avalon Hill board games, Panzer Blitz, this, that, and the other. So I was familiar with it, but was always on the fringe. We really didn't have a hobby store. We had a train store in the neighborhood, and he sort of dabbled with stuff on the side. So off to college I go, and I'm always one to sort of go find a new job I've never done. And I was going through the paper back when we had newspapers. And there was this thing in there, and it says pizza delivery driver. And I'm like, well, I like to drive and I like pizza. So that's where I'm going. And I got hired.
We are going to get to the miniatures.
Yes, you'll get to that part. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, mine's about half the length of his. So anyway, I get the job and I meet these guys. And one night we come, a lot of people, and one night a bunch of people come over and we're going to watch some all-night movie thing. And several of them notice that I've painted these figurines for the historical models, all this. And they get to talk. They start explaining to me this game that never has an ending, that allows...
Risk?
Yeah, you would think. Or the Monopoly. Axis and Allies. That has no rules, doesn't use a board. All of these things. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And that you paint figurines and all this kind of stuff. And I should try this and all that. And I really... Honestly, I couldn't wrap my brain around the whole concept. And... So a few nights, but we're all going to get together and they're going to show me this the next weekend. And so a couple of days go by and a friend of mine, Bill Bird, shows up with a Folgers coffee can full of all these figurines in there. And I just sort of freak out. This is awesome. I love the Harryhausen stuff. So I'm going through and it's all little heritage
First
stuff.
of all,
yes.
My advice to people painting and collecting miniatures, don't store your miniatures in a coffee can.
Oh, well.
What the... Seriously?
Well, back then, that's...
Back then?
Really?
Like 10 years ago?
Yeah. 20
Last
minutes
week.
ago. I got to go down and get him out of the coffee can right now. He'll be mad.
Freaking coffee can. What's this guy's name?
Bill Bird.
Bill?
Yes. So anyway. I sort through them. And I can still make out what they are. So anyway, he was a caster for
Were they
Heritage,
covered
which is one of the
in coffee
original
grounds?
figure companies. And
No?
Rust.
Okay.
And if you're going to be that particular. So anyway, I just dug through it. So the rest of that week, I dug through it, and I would paint stuff and play with it and this, that, and the other. Yes.
So were these Napoleonics?
No. These are all the Heritage Fantasy, the Dungeon Dwellers.
Oh wow.
We're not talking like toy soldiers that people use.
No. This is all the original fantasy stuff that they did. And inside of there, because I like the all Harryhausen stuff, and that was one of the things they told me about the game is I have to paint a character up that I want to play in this game. And so I'm going through all this stuff and picking and choosing, and I find one of the Heritage skeletons that's leaning on his spear. And so I go through the whole that part. They're interrupting me. That's just so rude.
That's off camera.
So anyway,
shenanigans over there.
So anyway, he comes in with this Folgers coffee can, and there's rust on the figures. I'll get that one out of the way. I see that coming.
We got that.
And so anyway, I'm going through all these figures and looking for something to paint. This is going to be my character, and don't know anything about any of this. And being a fan of the old Harryhausen movies, I find the Heritage skeleton who's leaning on his sword. He's sort of propped up with not his sword, the spear, leaning on a spear. And I think this is an awesome figure. So I'm going to paint him up, and he's going to be my character. And so I get him all painted. And so I show up, and we're ready to start this game. And so he pulls out, and we're going to write up my character stats. And I tell him I want to play a skeleton. Of course, everybody has a good little chuckle at that. And they explain to me that they're the baddies and that I need to be one of the player characters. So we roll up a human, but I still get to use him forever as far as my PC in the game. And anyway, that's how, at that point, from there, I discovered the miniature tabletop stuff, the British Colonials, 1200 scale, World War I naval, all the old guy stuff, as well as all the new stuff. Napoleonics. I've done it all through the years. Fantasy, everything.
I thought that you were into the historical stuff before you got into the fantasy stuff.
In the miniatures wise. Yeah, but that's for the tabletop miniatures, yes. But in the RPGs, we played D&D a whole lot. But there really wasn't. All you had back then for miniature tabletop battles was chainmail, which is the original TSR's fantasy rules, which are an actual historical set of rules with a fantasy addendum at the back. So the whole concept of really just playing large fantasy armies was at the time very, very rudimentarily. It had gotten more established by the time I got into it, but it was still not near as structured as you see today, anything like that. It was still an offshoot of the historicals. And then during that time, when I got into the fantasy, and then I did historicals a whole lot for years, Napoleonics and all of that, in the various scales, micro armor. You didn't sort of punch your ticket like you do. And played GW. I've done that. I had a lot of fun doing that. So anyway, that's how I got into it, and then here we are today.
Hey, Ed, what is GW?
Games Workshop.
Just for the people who
Never heard
of
of
Oh, that had never heard of it.
No, I've never heard of it.
I would have thought that would have been TSR. That would have been, what is TSR?
Mm-hmm.
Also a good question.
That's a good question, yes, if we're playing
It's
Jeopardy.
called Watsy bought them out
Yes.
a while back now.
Yeah, it's been what, about 15, 20 years? 20 years?
1998, right?
Yeah, 98.
20
so
years?
We're going on 20 years since Watsy.
I could be wrong. I don't know, but TSR stands for
Tactical.
Surveyor Study
Strategic something. I forgot. Review rules
We
or
should
something.
know better. We
But
should
they
tell.
were making books though, right? They were
Yeah,
all-
but actually TSR started out too. They also were one of the larger board game companies for a while. They were very much into historicals. Hence the on the tabletop side.
Tactical
of it.
Study Review, I thought.
Yeah,
That's
something
what-
like that for TSR. And so a lot of their products were.
Get ready.
Battle Grid
In the
and stuff like
comments, we're going to get roasted for this, for not.
Well, that's part of the whole being thing. Yeah.
I mean,
at
least we're getting comments.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
such thing as a
anyway,
bad comment.
they were really, though, they were known for, also known besides doing
Tactical
D&D,
strategic
is
review.
all of the historical games they did at the same time. And you had Battle of Britain in box sets, stuff like that. At the time, you had SSI. Don't remember what that was. Strategic Simulations, Inc., I think is what they stood for. And they built monster games and things like that. And that was sort of where the industry was, is heavily into the board games, a lot like now, just in a different way. And the miniatures were really starting off and really sort of fringe. You'd had that just on a history side. Goes back into the 60s. You had Scrubbies. There was a lot of stuff, but it really wasn't until Duke Seidfried, who passed away here recently,
Rip Duke.
was able to get into these stores with these products, taking TSR. He literally went around. He's an incredible salesman. And owned a Custom Cast, which was out of Dayton, Ohio. His first three sculptors were Tom Meyer and I can't think of it. Bissett, Scott Bissett, I think was his name.
Bissett?
Steve
Steve
Bissett,
Bissett.
Steve Bissett, and Max Carr. That was his first 3 sculptors, and then
Mm.
Tom Meyer was only like 14 or 15. So
I
when
assume
they
those
went
things
from
are
there,
really big in the industry. I mean, I'm fairly new to it, so
Tom Meyer would be. Tom Meyer he did all the Heritage stuff. I mean, all the Rob Partha stuff. So, and then did Thunderbolt Mountain. So he's an incredible sculptor.
Mhm.
But that was really, so I guess it started, hell, I was still in high school. I mean, back in the late 70s is when the adventure game industry started. But I knew nothing about it. I didn't come into it until I got out of high school and into college later and was exposed to those kind of things, which are fun.
Yes.
Let's
I forgot.
go. Now I'm going to sit back and paint
I
because
was
I've heard
about
this
to
story.
ready to take a nap when I'm
Yeah.
trying to get you done with your long-winded story there. All right, so I'll put this dude up here.
I have nothing to say, only because I know what's getting ready to happen.
So, okay, so let's go back to the year 1983. Ronald Reagan was the
Is this
president.
when they banged rocks together to make electricity?
No.
Okay.
Reagan was president. The economy was flourishing. Russia was our enemy. Music was great, and I was a young kid. I was in 8th grade, and we went. It was near Christmas time, and my mom, we were doing some Christmas shopping. My mom took me to a chain of stores that was long gone now. It's called Best Products. And I saw it. We were in the store, and I'm shopping. I'm looking around. It was like that place was like a. It was like a, I don't know. No, it was like a Target. Yeah, it was more like a Target.
Best Products. So we're like, it's like you take a
chain.
Target and Best and just sort of mishmash
Or
them.
Best Buy. Yeah.
Best, but they were just called Best
It was
Buy.
just Best.
Sears?
It kind of like a Sears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be Sears.
No. What used to be Sears? Yeah. But it wasn't Sears. But it was like anyway.
They went bankrupt before Sears.
So I'm
had something
in
on it.
Best, and I see this end cap full of dark green and black boxes, and it said Dungeon Dwellers, Caverns of Doom, and I was like, what is this? And I was already into comic books. I was into dinosaurs, the kind of stuff, the kids were into in 83. We didn't have the internet, so whatever we found we were into. So comics, dinosaurs, monsters, whatever. I didn't really have any exposure to fantasy stuff, and so saw this box, and so I picked it up. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. It's got a little knight and a little wizard and some monsters. This is so cool. This is cool, right? So I said, Mom, I want this for Christmas. That was the chair. And she said, nah, maybe you can get it for Christmas, maybe. I was like, oh, okay. And so whatever. And I put it back on the shelf, and I actually completely forgot about it. And then Christmas Eve, my mom said, you want to open a present? I said, sure. And so she gave me this present, and I opened it up, and it was Caverns of Doom right there. Opened up, it was like, oh my gosh, this is. And so I ripped it open and I read the rules. It was a Caverns of Doom was a paint and play set. So you get your miniatures and you would paint them, and then you'd have a little 11 by 17 dungeon board, and you'd put your miniatures, and then you could play it. It was a little game. It was really cool. And so that was my first exposure to miniatures and fantasy gaming at all. And so I played it and I loved it. And then my friend who collected comics with me, he said, hey, this looks kind of like The Hobbit. I was like, The Hobbit, I've heard of that too. And so he goes, yeah, you should read it. So I read The Hobbit, and then I read The Lord of the Rings. And then we were like, this kind of sounds like that game Dungeons and Dragons. Have you ever heard of that? It's like, yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is. So we went on this quest to figure out what Dungeons and Dragons was. And we found an old copy of Dungeons and Dragons box set with the chits in it, which it was like, what? It was just made no sense. Chits and role playing. I was like, where's the board? Where's the any of the, and we just couldn't wrap our head around it. So we finally figured it out, and we played D&D one-on-one for a long time. And that's how we kind of get into it. But Heritage had gone out of business in 82.
82, I think so.
So the fact that I found these miniatures it could have been 82, 83 was right around that time frame. But anyway, when I found them, by the time I found Caverns of Doom, Heritage had gone out of business. So I couldn't go find more stuff from Heritage. And I had found at that point, there was a chain of stores in Dallas called Lone Star Comics. Mm-hmm. And we went in there where we got our comics, and they had this huge case of miniatures. And that's where I was exposed to Raoul Partha and Citadel and Superior Models and all these different manufacturers. And I was like, wow, it's not just the Heritage stuff, it's all this stuff. And so that just we got deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And next thing you know, we were just addicted to fantasy gaming and role playing and miniatures and all that kind of stuff. We were just eating up with it. So we were bitten by the bug. And so years later, I'm in college, and I'm playing D&D and stuff like that. My friend had a house fire. He lost all his stuff. I lost my miniatures collection. So, while it was sad for me, it was tragic for him. But I couldn't find Heritage miniatures again because they would just disappear. Well, I was in a store in Denton, Texas, and it was called Fantastic Realms up on the square. And they said, I was like, what is this? It was the old Heritage stuff. He said, yeah, there's a company called Reaper down in Louisville who is now casting the old Heritage stuff. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I went to Reaper and I met Ed and Dave and Al. And they said, here, you can take this crap home and paint it and we'll bring it back and I'll get some more. So I was painting for trade at the point. I didn't paint a whole lot because once I started painting the old Heritage minis, I forgot. Oh, I actually was like, these aren't nearly as cool as I thought.
Chewed bubble gum, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Chewed. No offense to Max Carr. But they were like, wow, these are compared.
3 guys, and then you're like, hey, no offense to this one of those 3 people.
So they were kind of rough compared to what where Parth and Grenadier and all the other guys were doing at the time. So, and then then I saw an ad in the Dragon magazine. It was like, new from Reaper, the Reapers of the Apocalypse, and new characters from Sandra Garrity and Julie Guthrie. I was like, what? Those are amazing. Those are the coolest miniatures ever. And that's when I came back and I said, hey, do you guys need a salesman? And they were like, yeah, we need a salesman. So I kind of jumped on board. That was 1995. So 23 years later. By the way, my anniversary was last week.
Did you get a watch? If you did,
I got nothing. Huh?
Your work anniversary?
Yes.
His work anniversary.
My work anniversary. My Reaper anniversary.
And here's a quick story. When he first came by and was looking at the Heritage stuff, I had all these greens, the original sculptors from these Sandra Garrity models. I'm showing them to him. I'm pushing him on it. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the Heritage stuff. That's what I really want to see is the Heritage stuff.
Yeah, Ed did this cruel thing, or maybe it was Al, I think is who did it. Maybe they are both cruel. But spun up this old mold of stuff and then cracked it open.
Oh,
and I could see these cool miniatures. I was like, that guy and all these cool guys. And they were like, yeah, these are really cool. And they just threw it in the pot and melted it right in front of me. I was like, don't even get those guys. But what's cool is, because Reaper is now running its promotion for 2018, the Dungeon Dwellers line, I think it's a really kind of a full circle that what got me into the hobby was Dungeon Dwellers years and years and years ago is now the promotion that we're running in 2018 is the Dungeon Dwellers promotion.
Yeah.
Because Reaper owns the right to all the Dungeon Dwellers.
We did. We did. We sold those to...
the production. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
the production molds and the masters to a company up in Colorado. I can't think
GFI.
Yeah, GFI models years and years ago. Again, sort of like we couldn't service it. It was not practical for us to continually keep 3 miniatures in stock for a shrinking crowd.
And they were crap.
At the time. And they were crap.
No, they were classic miniatures. Classic.
Yeah,
they were classic. I love those miniatures. They were great designs. Those were really, really great designs.
But as the technology of figures advances, when you go back and you look at those, there was a bunch of Raul Partha stuff that I would see in their catalog or had seen in the store and never got. I'm like, one of these days I'm going to go get X, and then you'd finally see it. And you're like, yeah, right. Okay. Just pass on it because it's not anything that your mind had turned it into from what you remember that day. But at the time it was state of the art. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and the miniatures have really just the sculpting, from sculpting in wax and then to green stuff and then to Fimo and now it's all digital.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these things have really evolved over the last 30, 40 years. So they were kind of they were a little rough and things
Justin's
now are
something.
Hold on,
Yes,
Justin.
I'm not holding anything. I actually have a question for you though, man. Do you think Reaper plans to do any sort of some games like a paint and play game like you mentioned in your story?
We've talked about it a lot. But
there's so many projects on the plate right now. But it's the game side of this. This is something we're still exploring. So, and debating to see how the game's today, how it's done, and that's what we want to be on. But
we're a really good miniatures company. We're a really great miniatures company. But as far as a game company goes, we've never been able to devote the time that the games deserve, like Cav,
Right. Warlord.
Well,
But see, I guess from our position, what we've always done, or what we just did back when we did it, and that's where the technology of tabletop games has changed. Warlord is a complete game. All the models are released. There's 2 books out for it. All the rules are there. They're stabilized. You just go to town. Everything you need is there. However, What it doesn't have, which is part of today, is a huge tournament system background behind it, and all of these things that would engage fans and that fans want. And so it's not that we don't, it's just we were doing games the old way, I guess, or an older technology moved on and we just didn't keep up with that technology.
So, but yeah, no, I mean, honestly, it's one of my, little fantasies to have a cool dungeon building game, where the old Caverns of Doom. I would love to do a Caverns of Doom type game, but whether it'll happen, who knows? But that's really full circle for really if we did that. I have a question. So I have a question I want to ask because we do have some viewer questions already. Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question. Next. I have one question before we start that. And if you want to save it for another day, we can save it for another episode. But my question is, how did the Reaper, the company, get its name Reaper? I mean, this had to be some you had to know, obviously, some devil worshiper back from the 80s.
Yeah, that's how you did it.
It has to be something 90s, really
90s
awful and apocalyptic happened to you to come up with a name like Reaper, right?
You're right.
Okay. That was the setup.
I guess. The name Reaper comes from the Grim Reaper character in the movie of Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure.
What?
And
such a letdown.
Yeah, and on a 4th of July weekend.
The movie or the name?
Yeah, both.
So
dated. So on a 4th of July weekend, which is why we always do consider our birthday 4th of July. We're down in Fort Worth, which is where Reaper started, and we are currently casting. A dumb story here. We were doing our 1/432nd scale historical recognition models. There's the whole garbage there. And so the 50th anniversary of World War II is coming up or getting ready to happen or something. So we were just, because I'd owned these masters and collected them and been a nerd thing for years. So we're producing them all. So we need a spin caster. And so I contact some people locally I knew that had a spin caster. And he says, oh, yeah. I've got one that was with Task Force and ended up in Austin, and now it's up here. It's a great machine, this, that, and the other. And yeah, I'll sell it to you. I said, oh, okay, great. So we're where do we meet you? So we go to his house, and we pay him for it, and we do everything. He goes, well, I don't have room at my house for it, so I'm keeping it over at my buddy's house. So y'all need to go pick it up there. And I'm calling him, and everything's all cool. Yeah, I said, okay, whatever. So we drive across town, and we head over to get this thing. And lo and behold, when we get there, the guys, he did seem sort of lost, and he went in and called the guy. And they seemed to be working it out, but it did seem rather tense. And after about 30 minutes, I just flat out asked him, I said, you had no idea that we were coming to get this machine? He goes, no, actually, you're here repossessing it, and it pisses me off. Because I was buying it from him, but I got behind on some payments. So it's not your fault, no big deal. And of course, now that I'm a repo man on a casting machine, kind of a thing. And so we just like, guys, let's hurry it up. Get all this junk in the truck. Let's get out of here before this thing goes south. And so that's how we got our first casting machine, is we repoed it. So that's pretty much all was happening at the time there. And that's where the name Reaper came from, though, was from that character. We had a lot of fun that weekend.
Because originally the name was going to be Repo Miniatures.
Repo Miniatures, there we go. It could have been that.
We thought that,
but what was happening was now we had this machine. We had all this volume. We had a lot more capacity before we were doing the gravity-fed molds and stuff for the aircraft. So I owned the Warlord figure line, which is back in the 80s, that version of it. Al had Dungeons, all these figures, but we weren't producing. We weren't doing anything with them. And so now we had a machine. We had a lot of plate time, so we just started making them and just doing local shows. And then from there, it just started ramping up. And we didn't do our first legitimate release of a new product until, I guess, there in the early 90s, the first Dark Heaven items. We did scry counters in there, and that was a gaming product. It wasn't really a miniature, but we did hundreds of thousands of those.
Still produce those scry counters?
No, we haven't produced those in years. Now, there's another company that makes a pretty good knockoff of it. I can't think of what they're called now. But anyway, Scry Life Counter. Just look it up. You'll see all the stuff. If you need one, that's where I'd go.
They're called Repo Miniatures.
Yeah, they're called, Repo Counters. And
Repo Counters.
So anyway, that would be where I'd go. And if you find them on eBay, I mean, they bring, I was amazed. It's one of the things that always amazes me about this is on eBay. Some of them will go for $100, $150. And at the time we're making these things, we
sold the molds for those, right?
$8 or $9. Yeah.
Okay.
And the Doom.
Right, just checking.
And the Doom stuff. Yeah. If you want to do your retirement, go cast the Doom stuff.
Just checking.
So anyway, So what's another question?
That was my only question I
Good.
had. I know, unfortunately, every story you've ever told, so
1,000 times. Yes, I know.
I don't need to ask any more questions. That was more for everybody else than for me,
Oh.
because I know the damn answer. But we could take some viewer.
You
That's
guys-
right. We keep
you guys
asking for all
ready-
these questions. Give us a.
You guys ready for your first viewer question?
Where did these questions come from, by the way?
This first one that we're going to ask is from a person, since they did not specify their name. And I'm not going to read off their email, but it's a person.
Oh, it was email. Was it an actual letter they mailed us?
No, Ron, it's not.
You never know. You never know.
I'm not going to release the email address.
Oh, yeah.
They use their. I'm sorry.
Oh, so if you do have questions, you can email us your questions at reaperlive@reapermini.com.
No. Is it? I thought it was questions.
No, it's Reaper
I missed
Live.
that email.
One more time. What was that email address again?
We're not professionals, by the way, but it's reaperlive@reapermini.com.
Great. And please send in your questions.
Reaperlive@reapermini. Or you can leave questions in the comments below. Correct.
We will also get those. Yes,
You
we
will
will
get
monitor
those as
as well.
But email them to reaperlive@reapermini.com.
And that is REAPER.
Yeah.
Yeah,
live.
Yeah.
At
So get to
which
his-
is
get-
ampersand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get to his question.
So the question,
From
actually, I'm sorry. The guy does say his name. His
Oh,
name is
okay.
Kevin. It's
Apologies.
at the bottom. I apologize, Kevin.
apologies, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin, for giving us this
We're
question.
not professionals.
We are not, to reiterate. Kevin wants to know what are some of your most memorable or favorite moments in the industry
Such a rude question.
over the years?
Hmm.
That's the first part of the question.
We should have gone over these beforehand.
Kind of like, can we rehearse these answers
Yeah.
beforehand?
Uh,
Favorite things that happened in the industry over the.
say that again.
We're not professionals.
What are some of your
No,
favorite?
don't say that again. That's the third time. I'm
What-
saying, you said the question.
What are some of your favorite and most memorable moments?
Okay, I see.
In the industry over the years.
For me, it would be GenCon. My very first GenCon when I walked on the floor. That was incredible. Right? I was at Milwaukee. I'm in the same room with all of the Titans at the time that were TSR had their huge castle.
It's the same.
Mine here. We'll just get that.
Mine's the same. I haven't touched
Cock
it.
blocky right
You want to show us what you
And,
have so far?
Don't say
Ron?
that. What?
Want to show us what you have so far?
Yeah, I guess.
So anyway, on the floor there at GenCon.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell your story.
Anyway, you're surrounded by, you have the big, huge TSR castle, and just the pageantry is just incredible. And then here's all the notables. I see Julie Guthrie at breakfast, and
So, real quick. So, back in the day, back when Gen Con was owned by TSR,
Yes.
this is in the 90s,
Yes.
TSR would go and they would build this
Huge castle.
out of, I guess it was foam.
It was styrofoam. It was done like a movie prop. It looked like a really nice castle, but it was out of various types of foam and plywood and things like that. And they would erect it. And it was in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where they were located. That was their headquarters, and the town close down to it was Milwaukee. And that was where
The Mecca.
Mecca was the center.
That was the new one, yeah.
And,
So, at the end of the show, they would have Nerf wars. Nerf gun
Yes,
wars.
yeah, you
I
would
think
do
that
the-
started sometime in the 90s.
That was probably close to the end, but yeah, you
Yeah.
always during the show, because the shows have sort of a cycle of life. When all the games and everything are going on, the dealer's room gets boring, and in between it's just hectic and mayhem. And so we would end up with Nerf catapult wars that were going on between the various vendors and things like that, sieging the castle. There was one year when a group got together and actually did siege the castle, sort of stormed across the room with their Nerf weapons. There was just a lot of good stuff. But this was my first time here. And just everything about it was bigger than life. And that would be one of my most memorable. For Ron?
So, couple, I guess. I remember back when I was smitten with Larry Elmore and Keith Parkinson back in the day. Grew up on their art, and, playing D&D and things like that. One time, you were playing on it too.
I did it. I went down and found him.
So I come back to the booth, and Al comes over. He goes, "Hey, there's somebody who I want you to meet." And so I asked who, and so I go in there, and there's Larry Elmore, and he comes up to me, and goes, "So, are you the great Ron Hawkins? I've been hearing so many great things about lately." And I was like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me! You gotta be freaking kidding me!" So, and I obviously knew they were just punking me, but it was really great to meet Larry Elmore. He's such a nice guy. The other story is it was my first Gen Con. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this was in Milwaukee, and Bob Rodolphe was my roommate and we were all in this hotel suite at the Hyatt, I guess.
Yeah.
And while John and Mike were in the one of the bedrooms, and you and Miriam and whatever, I had to sleep in the common room or the big living area with Rodolphe. And I don't think the dude sleeps with his eyes shut. He sleeps with his eyes open. So he's like sleeping like a vampire. And I'm just freaking out. And so, but when I used to talk to Bob on the phone before I actually met him, and Bob's got such a nice mellow voice. He's such a quiet, gentle dude, and talking to him, I was like, man, in my mind, this guy looks like Mr. Rogers. And he really doesn't. But when I first met him, he's a little short Italian guy. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, it's not what I expected. I thought he'd be wearing a cardigan, but he wasn't. Anyway, at that Gen Con, I was Gen Con was built up with this huge thing, and it was great, and it was fine, but I felt myself being a little bit just disappointed. It didn't really, for some reason, it didn't hit a home run for me. I mean, what was really cool, and it was really great and everything, it just didn't really push me over the edge. So I was a little disappointed, a little wistfully there on that night, Sunday night, and everyone was packed up, and the show was shut down. We were going to spend the night at the hotel and leave Monday morning. And I go into the bar, and I see Keith Parkinson sitting over at the bar talking to some friends. And I said, I was like, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to go say hi. So I walked over and said, hey, I said, I want to bother you, but my name's Ron, and I've long since enjoyed your art. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I just want to say hello and just shake your hand and say thanks. He's like, dude, sit down, have a beer, and talk with us, and sit down. So I was like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, sit down, get a beer. I was like, okay. So sat down, got a beer, and I spent 2 or 3 hours in the bar with Keith Parkinson that night. Just talked about everything from fish and aquariums to drumming and just and art and all kinds of stuff. And he was the most nicest guy in the world, super great guy. And that was talking with him. He was like, yeah, we should do a miniature. So that's when we did the Druid Stone. And so went back, talked to Ed,
our very first box set.
Our first box set. And so talked to Ed, and Ed gave us the go ahead, and we did the Druid Stone. It was really cool. And Keith was such a nice guy. And unfortunately, he passed away way too soon, just a few years after that. But he was always, that is probably my most favorite Gen Con memory is meeting Keith Parkinson, and what a pleasant, gentle dude he was. So he's sorely missed. Thanks for bringing the room down with that question, Kevin.
Now, what was it?
Second part,
right?
yeah.
The second.
Hold on, maybe Kevin will redeem himself.
Okay.
He actually wants to know if there's anything done differently today that you wish would revert to the old way, that you feel was done better previously.
That's a great question, but that's a hard question.
It's a weird twist to it. I guess I would put it in the idea of what do I miss? What did we used to do that we're not doing now? I don't know that I would necessarily miss it, but I think we could. It would be fun if they did it. Was in the old days, or back when the dinosaurs ruled. You would go to these shows like Gen Con.
Check this out.
Or Origins. I know he's trying to steal my scene here. I finally get to say something.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
You keep
he
going.
wants to go over here and look like,
You keep going.
He's on Futurama.
You go right ahead.
Yeah, it's been, I didn't say that. So is you would walk the floor in the tabletop areas and in the miniature areas, these huge games. There was a guy that was doing BattleTech and had a full-size mushroom cloud that he'd built that was part of the table, and the pageantry of just all of the whole miniatures. It was just a huge spectacle. And these were individuals that were doing this. They would spend their whole year getting ready, I guess, for, I was in that cycle for a while, but not to that level. But they were just preparing everything all to be able to go to Gen Con and put this huge show on. And more times than not, they did it without pay. There was no such thing as corporate spot. They just did it for the love of doing it. And just, it was amazing, some of the weird stuff or unique stuff you would see. There was a company that was there. A company that was Ruffum sponsored that one. But it was a huge D-Day invasion. They had the whole cliffs. They had everything there. And then you had to you had to go across the room and use binoculars to call your actual artillery in and stuff. And just games like that. Or you could see the whole Battle of Waterloo. And but if you as a person wanted to go recreate the Battle of Five Armies in all of its glory, this is a good place for you to do your work and then have a place to go show it off. And nowadays you just don't see that anymore. And I really don't know why. It's the corporations will do what they can. Games Workshop usually always has some good displays, but it's just not part of our culture anymore. Really, it's really more tournament driven now. Things like that than just this is the game I want to play and here's what I've done and built it. So that would be something I miss that I really enjoyed back then.
Well, I think we have time for about one more question. So
We're live. We can do anything we
Yeah.
want to.
live.
Well, before you get
Live.
to it, here I want to show this off because he's been hogging the thing.
I don't know.
So there's my enforcer so far.
And that started off, you just painted black earlier?
Yes, it's when I used to paint armies, it's something I would do is for quick paint jobs is shoot it black, then I would pull white out or a light gray, whatever I want to do, and then dry brush it in that allowed me to in turn
Dry brush.
Yes, I know. It's an advanced painting technique,
So I've heard.
and then in turn it allowed you to take other colors like the yellow and dry brush it on top of the white, and that's really what you're doing, and that allows the yellow to pop up and do what it does. And then you just sort of keep adding what you want to do. And there's still a lot of little parts to pick out of it and actually do the hardline stuff. But anyway, that's where I am right now.
I'm painting nipples.
We have a nipple color, don't we?
Well, it's nipples through her shirt.
Oh.
So, do we have ogre nipple flesh?
I'm
color?
sure you checked the monster set. You designed it.
I didn't design any nipples in that set. There's no nipples. So
So really quickly, before we get into that last part, or this next question, I want to go ahead and tell everybody who next week's guest is going to be.
super secret special guest
Yes. Okay.
that you're going to tell everybody right now.
Yes.
Do y'all want to guess?
Right now, this second.
Do you want to guess who
I
it
already
is?
know.
Or, like,
Okay.
am I supposed to guess?
You guys already know too.
It doesn't matter. So it's Patrick Keith and Vicky Keith from Bombshell Miniatures. Awesome company, great people, absolutely love them. You just got to make sure you tune in for that. He's a really funny guy, a lot of fun to be around.
Mhm.
So, and does some awesome work. If you get a chance, go to his website, look at it. It's a lot of fun stuff.
Pat's he's a great sculptor. He's a great painter. Vicky
He
is
even made a movie. He has actually produced, directed,
Yeah.
and did an entire real
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
not some little goofy video
Yeah.
for YouTube and
Yeah,
Twitch.
no,
you know?
real,
He
yeah.
actually made a real movie.
So,
It was about a vampire, I think.
but it'd be very exciting to see them next week. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
and the
so-
next question is,
Patrick's not a Reaper, like, he's not associated with Reaper Miniatures,
no,
correct?
no.
So
we
why-
we just announced that Reaper bought Bombshell. Did you not hear that?
Oh, I did not.
Oh.
My bad.
Are we not supposed to say anything about
Oh,
that
Reaper
yet?
Bombshell. That's right. Oh, that's right.
Or actually, I think
GW
Bombshell probably bought Reaper, but whatever.
Yeah.
So
I know
is it go-
GW's trying.
No, that's one of the things we're going to do this year is we're not going to have just all Reaper content all the time. We'll have other manufacturers on, promoting their products, and because
Yeah.
we're about the hobby, not just Reaper itself, but promoting the hobby because the rising tide floats all ships. So we'll bring on other manufacturers and other guests from different companies.
No, it's a good start. I think he'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So-
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. What's the next question?
Well, since we're running out of time, this will be real easy. I hope a simple answer. I hope. Let's see here. Ben W wants to know
Mhm.
if there's going to be a Bones 5 Kickstarter.
Time's up. Sorry, like you said, run out of time. Time's up.
Ride denied.
You
sure.
can answer that.
I guess I'm sure there will be. There's none in the works right now.
We're focused on Bones.
We're
4.
focused on fulfilling Bones 4. That's really the entire concept, not concept, the effort going on right now. 100% is getting that on board, online, and out the door. There would be one. I
That
would
said, and once we're fulfillment's done, we're gonna be sitting around going, "What are we gonna do next?"
guess. Yeah.
Nothing. I don't know. Let's just say we're working on stuff. We got
Yeah,
a lot
no,
of
there's a lot of
there's
stuff. It will probably not be like a Kickstarter you've seen us do before.
Yeah,
It'll be a different,
maybe a little
twist to
different.
it.
Maybe
Yeah.
a little different. As we say, no, we don't know anything about it, and we go, yeah, but it's gonna
Yeah,
be
but there's gonna be
different.
stuff. But there's
There's-
not anything on the schedule.
There's something super cool that I've been talking to a guy about that I haven't even told you about yet. But I think that when you see it, you're gonna go, "That's pretty cool." Even
You said that
even
before.
you are gonna go, "That's pretty cool," because you're jaded. So I think even
That's
Ed
my
will,
yeah.
Ed will go,
Yeah,
"That's pretty cool." So there's a lot, but there's a lot of things we're working on. Our sculptors aren't just sitting around idle. They're working on some really cool stuff that'll be for regular metal releases. Man, there's there's a really big project that I really want to talk about, but I know we can't talk about it yet. You know what I'm talking about.
Right.
We can't say anything yet.
Not yet.
But man, it's cool. It's pretty cool. I mean, I hate to hype it up too much, but I'm kind of
That's
excited
part of
about
what we
it.
Can you
do.
drop a name for it, maybe?
No.
Or any hints at all? All right.
You want to give initials?
Go ahead.
BB?
I don't even know what it stands for. That's how secret it is.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about it. Pretty neat stuff. We have time for another question because that was such a letdown answer. Like maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe Bones. Yeah, we are, but not really. Can't really say.
All right, let's see
Okay.
here.
Next. So,
Let me find the Bones 5.
what's your favorite color?
Blue.
Me too.
Like just any blue?
Yeah.
Like, or just pure blue? Like, we got a bunch of blues at Reaper.
My favorite color is like a Caribbean blue.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's actually the next one, and it'll tie in basically, more or less.
All right.
Ben also wants to know if
Ben's
last
full of
year's
questions.
25th anniversary minis or this year's Dungeon Dwellers will be considered for potential Bones 5.
Considered. Considered is an easy word to
Yeah. We can always say yes because everything's considered.
consider that. Yeah, I mean, those
Yeah.
are good candidates for Bones 5. Yeah, I think those are really good candidates. I don't see, sure, maybe. I don't know. Good question, Ben. Read us his other 12 questions he sent.
No. Yeah, no.
Hey, also, we're going to be giving away prizes, right?
Yes. In the future.
In the future.
Yeah, in episodes, we'll also give away prizes.
So, what's the best way to try and get in on that?
I don't know.
Send me $10.
What we'll do is you guys will send us questions. Hopefully you'll send us questions, and we'll pick our favorite questions, not the best questions, but our favorite questions, and we'll be sending prizes to those people. We'll announce it on our live shows and on our live shows. Give away cool Reaper stuff, not like chopsticks from the store or anything like that. Like real Reaper stuff. Maybe we can get Patrick Keith to donate a prize.
That would be fun.
Be good.
So basically, you're asking people to submit questions to the aforementioned Reaper Live.
Why, yes, Justin. Yes.
Reaper, R-E-A.
Reaper Live at reapermini.com. I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but yeah, send your questions to reaperlive at reapermini.com.
And we will choose randomly from there.
Yes.
Hey, you've been asleep. We just said that. Yes.
Go ahead and mention it one more time.
We're going to pick not random.
Here, I just need to say it. We're not professionals.
We're not professionals. We'll pick our favorite questions. We may do random questions or random people. I don't know. I think we should do our favorite questions.
We're going to give out some prizes.
We're gonna give away prizes. How about that?
Yeah.
We're not professionals.
There
We
we go.
don't know. That's our new T-shirt. We're for life. We're not professionals.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. This one's straight at you, Ron.
Oh.
He wants to know if we can get some more hobgoblins.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Hobgoblins for sure.
What about pig-faced orcs?
Not so much. Look, you can't get them all.
All right,
you can't win
fine.
it all, right?
This one's the easiest one of all.
If-
Okay, what about minotaurs
Got a Minotaur in the works
with
right
feet,
now.
with feet, not hooves, wearing plate mail?
How about a new Minotaur?
He's asking for a friend.
Jason Weeby is working on a Minotaur. Right, is working on a Minotaur right now for Dungeon Dwellers.
All right, you heard him there, Ben.
I don't think it's
Hold him to
barefooted.
it.
I don't think he's wearing plate mail, but it's going to be the coolest hobgoblin. I'm sorry, the
Hobgoblin
coolest
Minotaur?
Minotaur you've ever seen. It's going to be so cool. I hope. Jason, the pressure's on you.
Yeah.
All right, so we're done with these guys for now. Let's let these sit, and we'll pick them up next week.
Sounds good to me.
All right, so make sure to check us out on reapermini.com and our social media.
YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. I don't care how you get there. Just get there.
Okay. Again, for the 15,000th time, send us your questions. reaperlive at reapermini.com. Make sure to join us next week when our special guest Pat Keith is here. And so for Reaper Live, I'm Ron Hawkins.
I'm at Pugh.
See you next week.
We'll see you later.